Hello, my yarny friends. I'm Sara Sach. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now, today's video, I'm going to show you how to stitch up this rectangle granny blanket with a Picot trim. It's a really simple pattern, and this yarn that I chose to use for this really makes it beautiful. We'll talk about yarn in just a second. Now, this pattern I wrote approximately about 7 years ago, and I wanted to update the pattern, have it retested, and have some new pictures and a brand new video made. And so I decided to use this particular yarn. This is the Premier Sweet Roll Frostie, and I'll talk more about the yarn in just a second, like I said. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to make a swatch to show you how to make the rectangle granny, and then I'm also going to show you how to stitch on that trim. The neat thing about this pattern is it makes a perfect spring wrap, shawl, or blanket because of its unique shape. It's not a square, it's a rectangle, like I said, and with it having these nice holes in it, it makes it great for spring, summer, winter, or fall. And of course, like I said, these colors make it amazing. Now, if you work the pattern according to what I have written, it'll be approximately 30 by 42 inches. But again, you can continue on with your rounds, increasing every row and make it as large as you want to. This unique shape also looks nice draped across the back of a chair or couch, or across the foot of a bed to have an extra blanket to pull up on you at night, or maybe just a really great car blanket. Alrighty, so let's find out what supplies you need. Oh, I forgot to tell you, you can find the Crochet Pattern link for this pattern on my blog with lots of pictures and notes. And again, as always, you can find that blog link down in the notes underneath this video. Now, what you're going to need to make this blanket is some medium weight number 4 acrylic yarn. You're going to need approximately 10 ounces to make the size that I made. So if you're making it bigger, of course, you're going to need more yarn. Now, I use this Premier Sweet Roll Frostie. It has 245 yards, which is about 5 ounces every skein. So you need 2 of these to make the one the size that I made. Okay? Now, the yarns are really interesting. They have 4 colors. This one has the lime green, the orange, the pretty purple, and this pretty teal. But it has this white frosted look to it, and it makes it so springy, doesn't it? It's so pretty, and you can see in here that sort of frosty look. There are, I believe, 12 different colors of these, and they go from brights to mediums to like beiges and browns, and then this beautiful spring color. The color I'm using here is called Marzipan. And the names of them are really fun. They're all like frostings and things like that. That you bake with, you know, making cakes and cupcakes and things like that. So they're really cool names. Beautiful yarns, super soft. So they're perfect for blankets. And again, this is acrylic medium weight number 4 yarn. Now, I use this. You can find the link for Premier Yarns. You can find my affiliate link down in the notes underneath this video if you want to pick some up. I believe these were $4.99 a piece, but I can't remember, so don't quote me on that one because I ordered them a few weeks ago when they were on sale. Okay, so if you don't have this particular yarn or it just doesn't hit your fancy, you can use any medium weight number 4 yarn. I also think that the Premier new ombre yarns would be perfect for this blanket as well. To see how those ombres would work as you work throughout this blanket would be absolutely beautiful. And I hope someone does do that because I want to see how that looks. Okay, now we're going to stitch today with our eye hook, which is a 5.5 millimeter crochet hook. You need a needle just to weave in ends and a pair of scissors. All right, we're going to begin with our slip knot, and we're going to loosely chain 27 chains. If you struggle with making that beginning chain too tightly, you can always go up to a 6 millimeter just for that beginning chain, and then come back down to your 5.5 millimeter hook for the remainder of the project, because we want this beginning chain to be just a little bit loose. All right, so we're going to chain 27 chains. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to place 2 double crochets in the 4th chain from the hook. We do not count the loop on our hook. 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1 and 2. So that gives us 3 double crochets, because this chain 3 that we skipped counts as our first, and then we stitched 2 double crochets. Now we're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and now we're going to stitch 3 more double crochets in this same chain. 1, 2, 3. We're going to chain 2, 1, 2, and then in this exact same chain, we're going to chain 3 more double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And we'll go ahead and chain 2, and I want you to see how this looks. This is our first end and both our first 2 corners. All right, so we have 3 double crochets because we're counting that chain 3, chain 2, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets all stitched in that 4th chain from the hook. So now we're going to work across our chain. So we've chained 2. We're going to skip the next 2 chains and stitch 1 double crochet in the next 3. So 1, 2, 3, and chain 2. And see how that looks? So now what we're going to do is repeat the 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 more times. All right, so we chain 2, we'll skip the next 2, and we'll double crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, skip 2, 1 double crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, skip 2, 1 double crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, and 3, and chain 2. All right, so now we have 4 sets of 3 double crochet, chain 2, and now we have just 3 chains left. And so we'll skip the next 2, and then in this last chain we're going to do what we did down here. We're going to stitch 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3, chain 2, 3 double crochets, 1, 2, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets all stitched in this last chain. There we go. Oops, slid out of there. Get back in there. Alrighty, and chain 2. So let's look at how it looks. Here's our first 2 corners. Then we have 4 sets of our 3 double crochets with our chain 2s in between, and then we did our last 2 corners. 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work back down this side of the chain and stitch it like we did these. All right. So chain 2, we skip those 2 chains and we double crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, and 3, and make sure that everything lines up so that your 3 double crochets are lined up across. All right, so chain 2, then double crochet in the next 3. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, skip those 2 chains, and 1 double crochet in the next 3. And this is why we needed to have that chain at the beginning just a little bit loose, because we're stitching in both sides of it. And this is called stitching in the other or opposite side of the chain, because we started on one side and we went around, and now we're stitching on the other side of it. Okay, now we're going to chain 2 and we're going to join to that chain 3 with a slip stitch. Then we'll slip stitch in those 2 double crochets and then slip stitch in that first chain 2 space and chain 3. And that is our first row or round. It can be called a row or a round. When I'm doing a granny square style, I usually do call it a row, okay? Just so you don't get confused. But this is the way that this should look after row 1. Once you've gotten past row 1, the rest of this blanket is just super easy. A piece of cake. I mean, we are using a cake yarn, right? Alrighty, so we're in our first corner. Our chain 3 counts as our first double crochet. So we're, so we're going to double crochet 2 more times. We're going to chain 2 and 3 double crochets in this first corner. Because our chain 3 counts as our first, we stitched 2, chain 2, and then 3 more double crochets. Chain 2. So our first corner is made. All right, we chain 2, we'll go to our next corner or next chain 2 space, and we'll stitch 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. And chain 2. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to be working in all of the chain 2 spaces across. So we'll go to the next chain 2 space and we'll stitch 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2 and repeat this all the way across this row. So I repeated this across, and what you'll notice is on this first row we had 1, 2, 3, 4 sets of our 3 double crochets. So now on row 2 we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 sets of our 3 double crochets, chain 2. And that's how the pattern works. It increases every single row. All right, so now I'm back to the next corner. So I'm going to stitch 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. Chain 2, go to the next corner, stitch those 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And chain 2. Okay, and then what we're going to do is do over here what we did over here and stitch 3 double crochets in each of our chain 2 spaces. with chain 2s in between, just like we did on that first side. So I have completed those 5 sets of 3 double crochets with chain 2s in between. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to join to that chain 3 with the slip stitch. There we go. And then we'll slip stitch in those 2 double crochets, slip stitch in the chain 2 space, and chain 3. All right, now this is the way it will look. We'll have our 4 corners and then our sets of chain 2 with 3 double crochets down the sides. And again, how it increases is you'll increase by 1 set of 3 double crochet chain 2 on both sides, and you'll also start seeing them on the ends in these chain 2 spaces. All right, let's go ahead and do row 3. All right, so we're going to do the corners the same. So we'll do 2 more double crochets because our chain 3 counts as 1, and chain 2. Then we'll stitch 3 double crochets in that same chain 2 space of our first corner. Okay, chain 2. And now we have this chain 2 space here. So we're going to stitch 3 double crochets in that chain 2 space. And chain 2. All right, so now we're going to go to this chain 2 space and stitch 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2 and 3 more double crochets. And chain 2. So see, on the end here we added a chain 3, or I'm sorry, a 3 double crochet cluster with chain 2 in between. Okay, and so now we're going to work down the side, placing 3 double crochets in each of those chain 2 spaces. And for this, now we're going to have 6 sets of those instead of 5, because again, we're increasing every row. And so you see, we now have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets of our 3 double crochets, chain 2. And now we'll do on this end what we did over here. All right, so we'll do those corners, 3 double crochets, chain 2, and 3 double crochets. Chain 2. We have this chain 2 space on the end here, so we'll stitch our 3 double crochets in that chain 2 space and chain 2. Then we'll move to the next corner and do the 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. Whoops, there we go. Chain 2 and 3 double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Chain 2, and then we'll come right down this row, just like we did over here, with those 6 sets of 3 double crochets with chain 2s in between. And see how quickly this blanket grows? I have completed row 4. It looks like I have 6 rows because of the way we go around, but it's really only row 3. And on row 3 you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 3 double crochet clusters on each end, and then on the short ends you have just 1, and then of course we have our 4 corners. And so what you're going to do is you're going to continue to repeat this So for the pattern that I have written, you're going to continue to repeat this for 16 more rows, which will get you a total of 20 rows. And that's going to get you that size, let me look on my notes here, of a 30 by 42 inch blanket. And again, remember, sometimes it might be a little smaller or a little bigger depending on your tension. Keep that in mind as also. So if it's not as big as you want it, keep going with your rounds until it is as big as you want it. Okay, if you're making this for a baby blanket, you may not want to go any bigger. But if you're making it for the back of your couch, you might want to go bigger. Okay, but all you're going to do is just continue to repeat row 3, increasing every row, because like now you'll have 2 chain 2s on the ends and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 chain 2s to fill with those 3 double crochet clusters. And so you'll just continue, join, slip stitch in the 3 and then slip stitch in the chain 2 space, chain 3 and repeat, and it will continue to grow every row. All right, now I did 16 more rows, but you can do more. Okay, so just to repeat and bottom line it, we're going to repeat row 3 for 16 more rows, increasing every row. So here is my actual blanket. That's a swatch that we're working off of. And when I go to show you the trim, I'm going to use the swatch as well. But you can see it makes a nice big blanket. And again, I just love this yarn. It's so soft. And I haven't even washed it yet. It's soft even without being washed. Okay, and so here's where I started. And you can see it increased every row. And isn't that beautiful? Now, when you're using a striping yarn, you don't have to change colors. One thing I do want to remind you is if you're changing colors, when you join on that corner, make sure that you change your color before you do your chain 3, or you'll have one chain 3 that's the wrong color, because that counts as your first double crochet. Okay? If you're changing colors, you need to do that. But if you're doing like a random color change, like using up your scrap yarns, then you don't have to worry about it. Just change colors whenever you want to. But this is how it should look. Isn't it beautiful? I just love it. The way the colors work and how it gets bigger, and it is a nice big rectangle. Lots of uses. This one's going to go on the back of my chair for a while. I just know it. All right, so once you've made your blanket as big as you want it, you need to add a trim. And I'm going to show you how to add this really fun and simple Picot trim. And it works for any size granny blanket. So once you have made your blanket the size that you want, it's time to add that pretty Picot trim. Now I'm changing colors just because I want you to be able to see it against a different color. And so I just put in this orange. It's off the same cake of yarn. All right, and we're going to start right here in this corner. And so what you're going to do is we're going to go ahead and chain 3 because we're just starting. Then we're going to double crochet. Now we're going to double crochet again. And then we're going to chain 3 and slip stitch in the top of that double crochet. And I like to go through those 2 loops. And then we stitch 2 more double crochets in that same chain 2 space. All right, so it gives you a nice little bump on the top of your shell stitch. We're going to chain 1, and then we're going to single crochet in the next chain 2 space and chain 1. Now, when you're going around a corner, I didn't change it any at all to make all the corners be picots. All I did is I just kept on going. So this next one's not going to be in a corner, of course. And so we're going to stitch 2 double crochets. 1, 2. Then we'll stitch another one and do our picot stitch. 1, 2, 3 chains. Slip stitch in the top. And 2 double crochets in that same chain 2 space. There we go. See? And now this next one, chain 1, we're in a corner and we're just going to make our single crochet. And it's just going to smooth around all of the corners. It doesn't have to be in a corner or in a side. It's just every other one. So we're going to chain 1 and now we'll go to the next chain 2 space and we'll stitch that 3 double crochets. 1, 2, 3. We'll do our picot, 1, 2, 3 chains, slip stitch in the top. Some more yarn out here. That pink wants to come with it. There we go. 2 double crochets, 1 and 2. Chain 1, single crochet in the next chain 2 space. All right, let me lay this out so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. Okay, it doesn't matter if you're stitching in a corner or a side. You're going to alternate single crochet, chain 1, the shell stitch with the picot in the middle, chain 1, single crochet, so the next one will be the shell stitch with the picot, which is, 3, picot, 2, so that picot's in the middle. And you'll just do this all the way around the entire blanket. And it makes a beautiful, beautiful edge. So here's my actual blanket. This corner, the shell stitch with the picot actually ended in the corner. Okay? And then we did our single crochet, chain 1, shell stitch with the picot all the way across. And this one I ended with a single crochet. Oops, down here. This one I ended with a single crochet in the corner. Okay, and it doesn't matter how it ends up as long as you're alternating those shell stitch with the picot, chain 1, single crochet, chain 1, all the way around your blanket. It just makes a really, really nice, pretty edge. All right. And then once you get back around, you just join to that chain 3 the same way we did on every row. The only difference is you join and you tie off and weave in that end. And this is a really super simple blanket. You got a baby shower you got to go to over the weekend and you got to whip something up quick. This is the blanket for you. So again, I wanted you to see how beautiful this trim is on this blanket. It just adds a nice little finishing touch in my opinion, and I just love it. And I especially love it with these colors because to me, they say spring and summer. And again, you can use any medium weight number 4 acrylic to make this blanket. And because it is a rectangle, it makes a nice wrap. It makes a nice Mother's Day gift, baby shower gift, birthday gift, or just make it for yourself to put over your own chair or couch. Yeah, this one's going over my chair. Alrighty, so this is our rectangle granny blanket with a picot trim.